guys, welcome back to my channel. I know I've been a bit naughty and I have seemed to be not filming my wrap-ups as frequently as I would like. So again, this is a double wrap-up, September and October. So we'll get started with September. September was good. I started my new TBR game and it worked really well and I got 5 books. So I'll go through them. Oops. Alright, I need one more. There. Sorry, I opened up the wrong thing. So September I read Across the Wall by Garth. This was a 3-star and it was a bit disappointing because it says Tales of the Old Kingdom and Elsewhere. So I expected kind of more than one Old Kingdom tale in here. That's why I was disappointed because I was like, I really wanted to delve more into the Old Kingdom. I really liked that world, but there was one and I think potentially a second, but it wasn't really all about the Old Kingdom, which the Across the Wall, Tales of the Old Kingdom and Elsewhere led me to believe there'd be predominantly Tales of the Old Kingdom. So, yeah, was a little disappointed. Then I had my short story, Embellish by Demelza Carlton. Again, I'll picture up. This one was the brave little Tailor retold, in which the hero is actually a heroine and is a lot braver than the boy in the tale. So that's that particular story. Then I also read one of my newer books, and that was Nimona. Sorry, I keep forgetting to do star ratings. Right, Across the Wall, 3 stars. Embellish, 4 stars. Nimona, 5 stars. Hilarious. I'm not usually a comedic reader, but I guess graphic novels get away with having some comedy for me. So, Nimona is a shapeshifter sidekick to Lord, sorry, terrible at remembering names, Blackheart. But the villains aren't villains and the good guys aren't good, as you see from here. So, it's all about perception and what is allowed to be perceived. So yes, that was 5 stars. That's it. If you want a light-hearted graphic novel about superheroes and villains where the villains aren't villains and the superheroes aren't heroes, definitely this one. Then of course I continued into the Throne of Glass series with the Assassin's Blade, which is the novellas from before Throne of Glass. Definitely read it in the recommended order, which is this one before Tower of Dawn, not this one right at the very start, because otherwise your feelings towards certain characters will be changed. By the end of this book, I ended up hating a character that I was indifferent towards before. So yeah, I recommend reading them in order, otherwise yeah, your feelings towards certain characters will change. And then the last book was my new book, which was from Crow's Bookstore, which is a little indie bookstore here in Western Australia. And that was Sherwood by Megan Spooner. Assassin's Blade got 4 stars. Sherwood gets 4 stars. This is a Robin Hood retelling where Robin of Locksley actually is killed and Maid Marian takes up his mantle as Robin Hood. So that was quite a nice little story, but it kind of kept on having the feeling of Robin's coming back, Robin's coming back, Robin isn't really dead, which, I don't know, that's why it didn't get 5 stars, is because there was that whole, it didn't seem real that Robin was dead. So I don't know. It kind of felt like there should have been something more, or maybe not just so much of a held breath for Robin of Locksley coming back. That's my impression. Other people might have had a completely different impression. So that was my September. So I had 5 books on my TBR and I read all 5 of them. If you want to know more about any of those ones, as usual, talk to me in the comments. Now, moving on to October. I had 5 books on my TBR. I read 4 books, one of which was not on my TBR. So 2 books go back into my graveyard. One, kind of deliberately, is going to be put into this month Cummings TBR, because I get the audiobook from the library of it. So that'll make it a bit easier. I found that I'm struggling a bit finding the time to sit and read. However, if I can put something on in the car to and from work, that's half an hour a day of reading I get done that I wouldn't normally get done otherwise. So we'll start off. I had a library book, The Magician by Michael Scott. So again, picture goes up because I had to return it. That one got 4 stars. So that again is following the twins. And at the end of the first book, one twin's powers were awakened, Sophie's powers. At the end of this book, Josh's powers are awakened. And that leads to a bit of problems, because not only is his powers awakened, the person that awakened also gave him extra memories and stuff, which puts pressure on the mind and makes it very difficult for them to separate out what's real and what's memory. And Sophie had quite a struggle in the start of the book with that. Now Josh is going to go through the same thing in the next book, I take it. Then I had one of my second-hand books that there was a while ago on my wife's channel. I'll link the video down below, where we went to a second-hand bookstore and bought books for each other. We had budget, $10 for 5 books. So this was one of those books. Tomorrow When the War Began by John Marsden. Now, this one I gave 3 stars, just because it's not really a genre I'm into anymore. I'm not really into the post-apocalyptic type things anymore, and this one is kind of it's not quite post-apocalyptic, it's kind of middle apocalyptic. Like, the bad stuff's happening now. And it just took ages for me to even, like, as I was keep on reading, I'm like, not even sure I'm going to be able to finish this. The storyline was good, I enjoyed it, but it wasn't I've got to read the next one, so I won't be finishing this series. Unless someone tells me that the rest of them get a lot better. Sorry, John Marsden, your work's obviously not for me. The next one I read was Circe by Madeline Millar. This one was 4 stars. This tells the tale of a daughter of Jersey's grizzling and grumbling because it's school pickup time. Jersey, come here, come say hello to people. Come on, go get her. Anyway, back to Circe. So, daughter of a Titan. Specifically, the Titan Helios, the sun. She casts a spell in vengeance, thinks that no one knows it was her, so she admits to it. Her dad dismisses it, says not possible, there's no magic left in those plants. Her brother comes and basically proves it, which then opens up a whole can of worms, and she gets banished to an island where she's not allowed to leave. They send nymphs and people can land and talk to her, she just can't leave the island. And that was following the tale of Circe, of course, and all the other gods and titans and nymphs and everything that she came into contact with while exiled on her island, as well as some of the humans and demigods she fell in love with. So that was a 4-star. Now on to the book that I read that wasn't on my TBR, and I actually read this with my wife while we listened to the audiobook because we got it from the library. And that was Escaping from Houdini by Kerri Maniscalo, which is the 3rd in the Stalking the Jack the Ripper series. I loved it. I loved the tension between Cresswell and Mephistopheles. I won't tell you why there's tension between those two. And of course Audrey Rose being in the middle of it all. So that one I gave 5 stars to. I am absolutely loving the series. I will definitely be Capturing the Devil when I can. Now on to the 2 that I didn't read. The first one is Passenger by Alexandra Bracken. I have tried to read this a few times. It is going back into the graveyard. If I don't read it in December, which is when I'll be going through all my graveyard books, it will be unhauled because I've tried to read it so many times. I think the first time I read it I got about 30 or 40 pages in and didn't pick it up again. Then the last one that is again in the TBR graveyard is Blood Tree River by Sarah Barrie. This one went into the graveyard because I realised I could get the audiobook of it, but it wouldn't be available until next month. And as I said, this month I seem to be struggling with reading physical books, and I did better with the audiobooks. Again, I only had one audiobook, but still. I think trying to physically read 4 books in a month is a bit beyond me. I think 2 audiobooks and 3 physical might be doable, provided the physical ones are smaller. So that is my 2 months. Please talk to me in the comments below if there's any more you want to know about any of these books. If you have any book recommendations based on these ones. If you have any information on the Tomorrow When the War Began series, or any more information on Passenger, and saying whether or not I really should try and pick up the rest of the Tomorrow series, or if I really should give Passenger another go. If you think it does eventually draw you in, please come and talk to me in the comments below, and I will see you in the next video, which should be up shortly because it'll be my November TBR. Bye!